Okay, well, there we go. One of the joys of having independently moving cameras. It's Brian. It is Wednesday. Yesterday just wasn't feeling it, and there wasn't a lot of news out there to talk about or stuff to talk about. So I thought I would give it another day, and found a few things. Actually, found something that isn't necessarily security related, but it might help people with how they approach security and people. Man, seriously. Well, I mean, it's the same as before, right? Stream information. I did not hit done on that, so oh well. I'll fix the update on that. I fixed it on YouTube, so if you go to the VOD on YouTube, it will work. So. Hello, everybody. I am Brian, and I'd like to thank some people first. They've been following us. I'd like to thank Tomcat for hydrating me. Thank you for that 5 days ago. Chris Hanlon, who followed, Vim Fox, Brianna Heels, John Q.O, or John 2.0. John 2.0, and Cloud Security Guy. Well, there you go. Thank you all for joining and following. Appreciate your patronage, your subscriptions, and I have been asked. So it's not official yet. I want to talk to the organizers of the event, but this is the third time that the ISSA organization up in the Puget Sound area, which is Seattle, which I used to be a part of for several years, and then I slacked off and then joined it back up again for a few sessions or a few monthly meetups until I moved to San Diego. But really active organization up there, and I will be doing another boot camp for them for our CISSP stuff. So if you're interested in that, join our Discord, and I will talk with them about getting the word out, because right now we're supposed to do it in April on a weekend. So over 3 weekends, we'll go through 1 or 2 domains. When I talked with one of the co-organizers today, I called her, and we started talking, and she started asking me these questions, and I said, she was like, well, the first thing she said was, well, as the lead instructor, do you have any thoughts or any questions about that? First, she said, hey, do you know where the college or where the venue is? And I was like, well, I kind of do, but my requirements are I'm in San Diego, not Seattle, which wasn't a problem the last time we did this. I was on a Zoom for 3.5 hours, I think, and I went over the 2nd and 4th domains, which, for those of you who are not aware, CISSP domains. So there, yeah, the eight domains explained. So let me go see. So the moving to the Mac is an interesting prospect. One of the things that it doesn't seem to do well is remember the orientation of my cameras. And so every time I come in here, I have to rotate my cameras back 180 degrees. And for whatever reason, I'm missing not a whole screen. Where's the screen at? Okay. I keep losing the browsers and stuff in OBS, and I don't know why that's doing that. So let's remove that. But anyway, so the 8 domains in this case would be asset. So the last time I did this, I did 2 domains out of the 8. Which was asset security and communication and network security. So I would say probably the easier of the 8, because of the 8 domains are security and risk management, asset management's number 2, security architecture and engineering, which is 3, communication and network security is 4, identity and access management's 5, 6 is security assessment and testing, 7 is security operations, and 8 is software development security. When I got my CISSP way back before some of you were probably born, 2010, I'm just kidding. well, I don't know. That'd be 15 years old. So if there's any 15-year-olds out there, it was probably before you were born. There were 10 domains, and they were way different than this. And now they've changed several times in this. This is actually a good article to cover. Let me put this in here. So when we did the... Okay, yes. And so it's interesting because this article talks about the weighting. If you take weighting, like how they decide which questions go in the exam. So you can take a look at that. And for whatever reason, I now have to figure out why I can't see the whole screen. Seriously, I don't know why it's not saving orientation on camera. Maybe I will figure that out, or let the fine folks at OBS know that it's doing that. But so anyway, I was having the discussion with the person running this thing, and she had made the comment of, hey, what are the issues that you see as seriously? That are going to cause you problems. And I was like, well, window capture, there we go. Jesus Christ. There we go. Okay. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. And I said, hey, that's cool. And I was like, how many instructors do you have teaching this course right now? Or how many do you have teaching the class? And she's like, well, so far you. And I was like, I'm not, I don't think I'm qualified to teach all 8, even though I have my CISSP, but it's a lot of time and effort, right? It would be roughly 3 weekends on a Saturday at 3 hours a piece. So it'd be, 10 hours of work just to teach people. Not to mention, I'm going to have to make a shit ton more slides. So I told her, I was like, the last time we did this, we had 5 instructors doing 8 pieces of this. And I told her, I was like, the last time we did this, I had 2 things that I had to do. One of them, asset security, and telecom and network security, or communication network security, is really long. It's really long. There's a lot of stuff inside. It's probably one of the larger chapters on the book. And it was supposed to be like a 2-hour block of time to be able to go over that section, and I had 45 minutes. And she was like, oh yeah, that's a problem. So I told her I was more than willing to work that as a legitimate issue, but it's like, I need to, we need to better plan that, and we need to, and she was talking about, how often do we need breaks and stuff like that. And I was like, well, every hour or something, just to make sure people are staying fresh and whatever. So going through and having to plan some of this out, I didn't realize I was going to be helping to that degree. I'm more than willing and able to help out as much as I can. I just can't teach the whole damn thing. Because 2 of the people who did it the last time have dropped out and are unable to do it, or don't see any reason to teach the CISSP. Some of them are more wanting to teach the cloud controls security practitioner, the CCSP, I think. So yeah, what am I seeing? Okay, so there we go. I don't know why I'm not getting the right link, but anyway, there we go. Move all of these tabs back over. We'll go over those in the proper time. And this is one I didn't expect to see, but we'll do it later. All right. So it's interesting. So if you've taken the CISSP before, you haven't, or you've taken it recently, they have a different weight on how many questions out of the 150 that you take for the exam. And so they have like 15%, or, each domain has a number based on these kind of, and it's supposed to be anywhere between, looks like 10 to 15%, depending on how important they feel it is for some of these things. And I brought that up with the organizer. I was like, we haven't done this in, since 2020, October 2023 was when we started doing it. 2024, has things changed? Has there been a new version? Which resource should we use? Because, are we going to use the official ISC squared stuff, or are we going to use like a Sean Harris book or whatever? I was like, if everybody, if we're going to have people teaching this, then we need to have everybody on the same page. And so we're going to look into that. But according to the, as of April 15th of 2024, they have slightly changed some of the, not to a huge degree, but some of the percentages have moved. Well, it looks like the only thing they did was they went down in software development security and went up in security and risk management, which I find interesting. When I went through the CISSP in 2010, the first thing they said, and I remember the guy that taught it to me, I forget his name, Steven something. Anyway, the first thing he said was that CISSP is not a technical certification. It's a management certification because it doesn't get in the weeds. It's about breadth and not depth. And so that's the one thing you needed to remember when you were doing the exam. And it might have changed in a few, in the last few years with regards to that. But I always try to tell people that it is a management certificate. It is not a technical certificate. It's not going to make you a better red teamer. It's not going to make you a better pen tester. It is definitely weighted for somebody who is not completely fresh in this industry. You're supposed to have 5 years of experience in security. And so, I've always argued that IT people do a lot of security. Now, you might be from the camp of, if you're not doing, real dedicated security stuff, then you're not really doing security. And I would argue that people who are, in help desk or network administration, you're setting ACLs, so you're setting access controls. You are, resetting passwords for people. So, you're provisioning users. You're setting OUs on domains. There's a lot of things that you can say you're actually doing security, because if you didn't set OUs, if you didn't set up a proper domain, if you didn't, if your only ACL on your firewalls was any, there's no security, right? So, in that bent, at the time I did mine. Let me see. Let me see. Where's CISSP 10 domains? Because the other thing is you have to find another CISSP person, and so back in old-timey days, just to give you an idea, the old 10 domains was information, security, governance, risk management, access control, cryptography. So they had a number of 10 things. So administrative, physical controls pertaining to physical security, facility location, construction and management, physical security risks, and whatever. One of the jobs that I did when I was in the Navy was I stood watch, which, for those of you who are in the military and have stood watch, you are a literal physical control. Now, some people are like, oh, you're a glorified security guard. Yes. I also did door checks. I walked around and made sure that, government safes were properly secured against, were locked at the end of the day following, security guidelines of, potential loss of material. As a defense contractor, that was the CISSP was one of those requirements. So it was, at the time, people were in the military, they were in the DOD, so they understood what it meant to stand watch, or they understood what it meant to be a literal physical control. If you were working in a skiff, you have to unlock using physical controls. If you had a 2-person integrity safe, you had to know the combination on one side, and you had to have somebody who had the B combination. But yeah, so intrusion detection, making sure doors were locked, making sure that offices were locked. You can't go into the intelligence officer space. if Commander blah blah decided to leave his door unlocked, we had to log that, and it was potentially an incident depending on if the Commander blah blah was really good at clean desk management. As somebody who may not have been cleared to see what was on that desk, that's a problem because I could potentially have looked at something. So that's an incident. Ideally, that would make my butt pucker, and then I would have to just file an incident with the lieutenant on deck on watch with me, and then we would send out a nice email to the officer, and then make sure the door was locked and secured. But so anyway, going back to the 8 that exist. I would say security operations would be that now, but long story short, I'll be teaching that class. If anybody is interested, please feel free to join our Discord. I will talk to the ISSA folks up in Seattle, and I'm actually going to suggest that they maybe partner with other organizations other than just ISSA. San Diego has an ISSA group. They have an ISC squared group. They have a women in cybersecurity group. They have ISACA people who may want to get your CISSPs. And so, yeah, I'm going to be doing that at least one weekend in in the month of April. So yeah, that, and if you're interested in the CISSP, I don't know if they're going to charge for it. I don't have particulars about that yet. I don't even know if they charged the last time for the class. I know I didn't get paid, but this time I'm going to make damn sure that they, put my credits in for my CISSP. So yeah, the other thing I found interesting was, brainstorming ideas. It's like, okay, we're going to teach you how to get your CISSP. You're going to take your exam, but then what do you do after that? So care and feeding of your certifications are very important. How are you planning on long-term to earn enough credits to maintain it? Because I have seen, I saw somebody on the cybersecurity Reddit who was like, oh, I need 80 credits before the end of February, and how am I going to get those? And people were like, that's a lot of freaking work for your CISSP. Are you even wanting to get it? I would argue you don't let any security certification right now, especially in this shitty ass job market and this whatever the hell's going on with our government, lapse. Anything that's going to get you a leg up on somebody, do it, right? For instance, I just renewed my GWAP, my SANS web application pen testing course, and my incident handler. Didn't cost me anything. Well, it literally didn't cost me anything because my company's paying for the renewal fees. And I didn't have to pay $8,000 for another class, which I could have done. Going to the SANS summits costs nothing if you do it virtually, and you get 12 credits if you ask some questions, you get involved, you answer some of the surveys that they do in there. Really easy stuff, and they double for my CISSP, which is always helpful. Technically, if I put my stream here every week when I talk about security, those should count as well in terms of like preparation or speaking or what have you. But I have yet to actually count those as part of the requirements. So anyway, so I don't want to talk about anything going on with the government or Doge or Elon Musk or whatever is going on. So I did find some things that were definitely, one of them is kind of tangential to that. There was a Coast Guard talk, discussion. There was apparently the government the General Accounting Office of the government is still functional. And they released an audit from a probe that existed in December 2023 to December 2024 about the safety of maritime transport systems. If you remember back, around, they had Salt Typhoon. So Salt Typhoon. Salt Typhoon was an advanced persistent threat, China's military state, right? State security. High-profile cyber espionage campaigns against the United States. They worked on counterintelligence targets and theft of, corporate intellectual property. I want to say Salt Typhoon. Where was it? Salt Typhoon and maritime operations. I want to say they attacked They attacked Chinese telecoms, right? Salt Typhoon, according to Asia Times. But they also hit like maritime operations, like longshoremen or docks in Long Beach and what have you, spread ransomware. And so one of the things that came out of the discussion here, especially, I don't know why. There it is. Foreign governments, transnational criminals, hacktivists are all looking to disrupt U.S. ports and waterways. It's major infrastructure that brings in a lot of money to the United States. It also is how we get money because we export things, import and export. So the GAO posted up this article or this report titled Coast Guard Additional Efforts Needed to Address Cybersecurity Risks to Maritime Transport Systems. And so they say it's an essential element of the nation's critical infrastructure, $5.4 trillion in goods and services annually. Owners and operators of maritime facilities collectively manage these goods and services. I won't read through the whole doc because it looks like it might be fairly long. Examples of technologies used by facilities and vessels within the marine transportation system. So this is pretty interesting document about that from the GAO. I would grab it before it gets scrubbed because of whatever fuckery is going on right now. If you want to see that. So it says, modern facilities and vessels are increasingly reliant on remote access capabilities and in some cases autonomous operations. So you have, we went to Fort Lauderdale on our cruise, and you saw these big old cranes, and they just keep moving. And the lady who was doing the tour was like, yeah, those things run 24 hours a day. They don't stop. They're running pretty much automated by themselves. They have somebody up there who's monitoring it, and every 90 minutes they switch out. So there's like 5 or 6 folks up there that rotate in and out based on how many hours a day the shift work happens. And otherwise, Fort Lauderdale is constantly moving, right? Long Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Port of Seattle, to a lesser extent, probably San Francisco, New York, all of the big ports that import and export stuff comes in and out of, have these continuous and autonomous operations. Things are constantly moving, constantly unloading, offloading, reloading, and they run on computers, and they run remotely, and they use software that needs to be patched. And you're talking high availability, you're talking the need to transport cargo. They're talking about what they say. Further autonomous commercial ships in use today around the world are designed or adapted to perform a variety of specialized tasks. Autonomous ships used to transport cargo, autonomous drone ships. I don't know about that. So the gist of the report, which the Reg is kind enough to succinctly, remember when reporters would take a big ass report and then condense it down into an article? Now AI has done that for the reporters. Anyway, they said, however, Coast Guard cannot readily assess complete information on inspection results specific to cybersecurity from its system of record. Coast Guard did develop a strategy to address risks in 2021, but did not fully define the national security risks and vulnerabilities affecting critical operations or set measurable targets that can be used to gauge success. So this is a metrics issue, right? They did not fully develop a metrics dashboard showing, we had, how are we going to gauge success? How do we measure success? And I hate that because that's, what I'm doing right now with my own organization. In this case, the Coast Guard got taken to task on this. So they said in 2024, the feds warned China's Volt Typhoon, not Salt Typhoon, compromised multiple critical infrastructure sectors, including transportation. Okay, so I don't know why I said Salt Typhoon. I meant Volt Typhoon. And that's here, so the Reg. U.S. energy and critical networks, American TLAs all over Beijing's infrastructure. This warning came within hours of Uncle Sam earlier today confirming multiple IT environments across communications, energy, transportation, water, and wastewater processing plants in the United States. So Volt Typhoon found back in 2023, and I think we probably talked about this at one point, or in 2024, owning up infrastructure inside the United States. They make it sound so easy. It probably took them several years to be able to do so. They said the spies were able to avoid detection for and playing around in those networks for some cases up to 5 years. Now, why is that? I mean, they must have systems that monitor these things. But you have, I don't want to even call it sophisticated because that's what another company uses, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. There is people that are monitoring these things, but there's sometimes that maybe the systems aren't logging remotely. So maybe that's one of those things where it's like we don't touch that machine because it does a really critical function, and if we did anything to it, it would fall over and we would ruin our lives. A lot of infrastructure is 10 to 15 years or better old, and it's not easy to export logs. Maybe the application that it's using doesn't use logs. There's a number of different reasons why things might work the way they work or not work the way they work, but replacing them is costly. Maybe there isn't a replacement for those things, and it takes time to either build or rip and replace, or find something that will work without disrupting infrastructure too poorly. As you saw in that report, $5.4 trillion annually. You've got ransomware that was disrupting like the Port of Long Beach and those. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars before they got back online that was lost by that. You pick a solution, you try to implement it, something goes bad, there's no way to rip and replace and put the old thing back in. You could be down weeks, months. Just not a good look, no matter how you go. So, So, China's owning up infrastructure, including maritime operations, ransomware from Black Basta, targeting maritime transportation operators, MTS, automation technology provider known in the MTS for supporting critical infrastructure, maintenance services, ship-to-shore cranes. So, if I remember correctly, those cranes I forget, she made a joke that like they make everything from TVs to big ass cranes that sit in and offload stuff. So it was like a Samsung crane or something like that. It was really interesting. So, apparently the Coast Guard has issues because they don't have people to fill those roles. So they said the Coast Guard hasn't filled vacancy gaps for key cyber personnel since 2022. Homeland Security was trying to get them to fill those positions, but they couldn't find anybody. Nothing was available, right? 8 positions remained vacant, as do 23 of the 156 authorized Coast Guard cyber protection teams. So this is an example of where they have jobs that are open, but you can't fill them. And yet we have people on LinkedIn who are being let go. Meta just had layoffs on Monday, the 11th, 10th. Microsoft just is currently in the process of letting more people go. Amazon and Google will probably follow suit in the next month or two, depending on what's going on. But these jobs were unfilled since 2022. Now, they may have been filled since then, I don't know, because this article is it's from today. So, they could have filled those positions. They could have hired out or contracted with a team, but there's definitely a hiring problem there at the Coast Guard with regards to that. It could be that maybe they needed to bring in Coast Guard personnel, which means they couldn't make their recruiting, or they were actually looking for like a government 2210, which is like a IT person or security person with a different job code to be able to take that up. So yeah, so there's a good example of perhaps the job posting for that was not realistic, or they were wanting something that is niche. Maybe they said, hey, we want somebody with experience in maritime operations or something like that. And it would be like, it's a niche thing where, maybe the job descriptions, aren't friendly to that. So, or, it could be somebody took a look at the job description and found out you're getting paid minimum wage, and they said, yeah, no, I'm going to nope out of that. So there's a number of different issues, but they said the GAO recommended updating its system of record to provide access to complete cyber deficiency data, which they may or may not have, ensuring its cyber strategy and plans align with all key characteristics of a national strategy. Okay. And analyze, assess, and address workforce competency gaps. So this one should probably have been number one, because you can't do these other two unless you actually have people who can update your system of records and ensure cybersecurity strategies and blah, blah, blahs, national strategy, blah, blah. Who, to be fair, does anybody actually know what the national strategy is right now? And it could actually be worse now, considering all the layoffs or people that have taken a buyout. So, but yeah, so hopefully it'll get better. Right now, I know that threat actors are out there doing what they can to, it's a free-for-all, in many cases. And I applaud the folks that are in threat intel that are still working for companies that can still get hacked, that are, they're still doing write-ups for threat actors that still exist. And there's still a lot of folks out there who are, still fighting that good fight, even though not everybody is appreciative of those efforts. So. Interesting. So last week, I think I talked about the CMS from Contech, the media. Oh, God damn it. There we go. Yeah. The Contech patient monitor that had a ton of vulnerabilities, including a hidden functionality, a backdoor in this case, 2025-0626. And firmware includes a backdoor that silently connects to a hard-coded IP address, bypassing typical device network settings. RISC allows remote code upload, file overwriting, and unauthorized modification of the monitor software. We talked about that was an NFS share, right? So not sure what the NFS share does. If it was a bidirectional thing, which allowed for file uploading or to overwrite certain files. And privacy leakage. So that NFS share is an unencrypted protocol. So the data that is sent to that hard-coded IP address is over plain text. So anything that gets sent to that remote IP address that may or may no longer exist exposes vital information, patient's vital data, vital signs, and whatever data is being passed along with that. So this is another write-up on that, talking about no integrity checks, potential for full device takeover. So there's an ad at the bottom about using that, but it's a good write-up of the number of issues that they found with regard to what was in the list there. There we go. Cool. So a couple weeks ago, I talked about Powerschool, which, if you remember, Powerschool was Powerschool in the news. Yes. So this is an update but Powerschool is an educational software company. 6,500 of its 18,000 clients were impacted by the hack announced last month. Some hackers behind the incident allege that they have 62.4 million student and 9.5 million teacher records, which for some they said could stretch back to the year 1985, because schools have, made electronic copies of all these paper documents and gotten rid of the paper documents and stored them in their Powerschool because it's more cost effective. I think I talked a little bit during that last stream about certain organizations or the way that certain school systems were set up, that you actually would have, one school system could actually be 15 different school systems inside of that. And that was in like Canada. And one of the, so Alberta, Canada, made a comment about the incident, saying, we care about privacy and security, blah, 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 very seriously, blah, blah, blah. We're in the beginning stages of our review of these breach notices, and we'll be working with affected educational institutions to mitigate the risk of those affected by the breach, blah, 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 blah. But it was just interesting to see them finally putting out a response after months talking about that. And she says, the notes the offices, suggest possible courses of action for those affected. They're off, the school system is getting credit monitoring from Powerschool and identity theft protection. You should contact Powerschool for information about that offer. The one thing I've always wondered about breaches, especially large-scale breaches like this, is how many people actually take advantage of the credit monitoring. Because this is one of those things where you should be signed up for it automatically, right? And you shouldn't have to contact Powerschool for information about the offer. This is one of those things where, Powerschool is not going to suffer any consequences or any kind of loss of, money, because people will not take them up on that offer, or they won't do that. I saw a story one time where somebody said, on those offers that you see on TV where if you're not completely satisfied, send it back for a full refund. And somebody said, how often does that happen? And they're like, yeah, like one time out of 100. And this is one of those things where it's like, you're going to have to take the time, and I'm sure that there's going to be a whole, you're going to have to, the worst thing would be like is if you have to prove that your data was in Powerschool. I'm not sure how you would do that, but Powerschool should make it as painless as possible. But I have a feeling that there's a few hurdles to jump through before you can claim your free credit monitoring for that. Hush. You can come in. I don't know what you're doing. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this Powerschool thing is going to continue on. They posted a notice on the website here. What happened December 28th. So 2 months later, Alberta is finally, notifying people, or, suggesting that they're outraged and, security is very important to us, blah, blah, blah. What was involved? Due to differences in customer requirements, they can't tell what was hacked. Experian is offering identity protection services. So here's how you do it. Okay, so make sure you enroll by 30 May 2025. Your code will not work after this date at 5:59 UTC. Visit the Experian website. So you don't even need to contact Powerschool. You can go to this site. Here's the activation code. Which makes me wonder, could I sign up for identity theft protection with this code? Interesting. Could I get free identity and theft protection from Experian with this? I'm not saying you should do it. or I guess you can go down to TransUnion. They're also doing something similar. Available to involve students and educators who have reached the age of majority, which I think the age of majority is very similar in the US, be like if you turned 18, right? And then, Experian is offering it for anybody. Credit card is not required for enrollment. You can contact Experian immediately and regarding any fraud issues and have access to the following features once you enroll in Experian Identity Works. So you're going to have to potentially give information, which probably was the same information that was leaked when you were in there, minus a few things. So something to remember when you sign up for these, you're also signing up for spam. You're also signing up for ads from TransUnion and Experian. So something to think about. So they'll give you additional information if you want to. Interesting that they did give you that code. And if you weren't in this breach, can you still get that protection for a year? So that is interesting. All right, so am I even online? Let me go double check. This is one of those things I probably should have done that. Let me see, where is it? I have at least one person, so thank you, Lurker, or chatbot, or whatever it is that you are. Okay. I am not online, am I? That is really weird. I don't think I'm online. Have I been talking to myself for the last hour? Let me see. All right. So okay. Oh no, there I am. Okay. Oh no, there I am. Okay. Oh, that was pretty good. Okay. I'm, in addition to my GWAP, my GCIH for SANS, and my let me close some things here. GAO report, Volt Typhoon, Coast Guard, and anyway. So I came across this article because somebody had turned me on to it during my Agile Scrum courses, which I got this because one, I was trying to get my PMP, which is a project management certification, but it didn't take. I took the test like twice and I got really close on the second time, but I tried to take it during the pandemic, which I still lived up in Seattle. Pearson VUE was one of those things where it was like, please show us a picture of your entire office and make sure that nobody's helping you cheat and whatever. And there was a lot of pressure at the time, and I got closer the second time, but it's the PMP certification test is more scenario based. So you can read the project management book of knowledge as much as you want, but the answers are scenario based. It's like, what should you do, or what is the best answer for doing this thing, even though it's multiple choice. And you don't do it right well enough, then you don't pass. So I got this because it was a little easier to get. I have a CSM, which is a Certified Scrum Manager, and a CSPO, which is the product owner. So one of the things you have to do SEUs to, earn various, you can go to events or learning or whatever. It's not a hard certification to get. You just kind of have to, be involved on that. So one of the videos that I watched as a webinar was, which animal are you? And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And it's not otters, but there's 4 of them. There's hippos and wolves, and there's rhinos and zebras. There's actually 2 rhinos in here. What was the other one? Really high value opportunity. So that's the other one, but that's not really a person, I don't think. But so these are the people that you have to deal with they say in the product development zoo. Oh, look at the otters. Oh, they're so cute. But in security, you kind of have the same thing, right? And I'm not trying to shoehorn something in, but we have similar people in our organizations. The hippo is the highest paid person's opinion. So you have, you have your CISO, or you have managers, or you have a product owner or somebody like that who's, they make the decision and everybody's like, yeah, let's go and do that. And you might have an idea on how to fix something or the solution to these things. And the hippo could not necessarily be the highest paid person in the room for a security person. It could just be the highest ranking person, or the oldest, the most senior person in the room has the institutional knowledge that, oh, well, this won't work. You got to go do this thing, or you have to go, this will never work because, or they're the negative people, or they'd be the resistance that you have. When I did my change management stuff, you figure out which pockets of resistance those things are. And each one of these people represent, I would say, a resistance, or a person that is going to cause you problems in this case. So, founders, they say here, founders or CEOs or virtual I don't know who VPSs are. Make all the decisions, but don't let them steer you off course. If you have a security project, or you have an idea on a course of action, you need to make sure that those people aren't overriding you just because they are positionally in authority, or they have a checkbook, or that's where we're having to explain to them why they need to do it this way, or how this thing would align. And they have motivators, right? So you have, they're for a founder or CEO or somebody who is in the elevated position, they may have a more strategic idea of what's going on, or they see it from a business point of view. So hey, we need to patch all these things is a great idea. They sometimes these folks have an idea on how that might affect the business, or and they might tell you, well, we're not going to do it that way, but they don't bother to explain why. So they will affect you in that way, where it's like you have to do what they say, because while you may have a good idea, they may have different ideas on how that's going to happen, and it's their way or the highway. So when you run up against somebody like this, where they have a specific axe to grind, or an agenda, figure out what's motivating them, if you can, and tailor your responses on your course of action to how it will affect the business, or how it will affect their operation or their product, or how it will improve their product, or how to make them okay, all right, cool. How it will benefit them in this case, because that's what they want. They want to feel like it was their idea, or what have you. The wolf has a short attention span and a temptation to jump from one problem to the next. They tend to only enjoy fighting fires. This will disrupt your team's focus and effectiveness, making you easy prey for your competitors. We have wolves too, but I mean, it's not just because they're your incident response folks or whatever, but it's like I find myself sometimes maybe being a wolf on that, and my attention span is because I get stuck doing something. I'm actually not a wolf because I'm a predator. It's like I get stuck because I'm trying to explain to a hippo what I'm doing, and it's like, oh well, I can go work on this while I'm trying to formulate the response to the hippo, and then I find, squirrel, and then, there's another thing that takes me away. So I'm 2 steps away from the hippo at this point, working on something else over here for another, hippo or whatever. Yeah, it's rough because there's always more fires to fight. So they say collect a process for feedback about problems, bugs, and only consider these along with other requests. Set up triaging and set clear priorities and a method for prioritization. That's great. I mean, that works for not only product development but also security as well. And triaging an issue, triaging a bug or a finding. Which ones are the most important? Work those. Kind of move your way down. Clearing your priorities or figuring out, okay, this team needs this because their release is coming up and this patch or this finding or this issue or this security audit or whatever needs to be done before X number of days, so they're the priority. Speaking of which, they mentioned the Phoenix Project, which is a great book. Get the audio book if you can. It was a pretty good it was a pretty good listen when I listened to it. I found the Unicorn Project a little less good. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just it was a different thing. But this is a great book. As you can see, I bought it in 2018. I bought the audio book at the time. So. But yeah, so if you ever wanted to listen to this, because they do have a security person in there, the CISO is in the book. It's kind of interesting, that person. And all right, let me do something here. But yeah, take a look at this book if you ever have a chance to read this. If you haven't already, I mean, it is an excellent. Okay, paste. There we go. But yeah, the audiobook is great. I didn't bother to read the book. I think I was listening to it as I was driving back and forth to work before the pandemic. That's just how old it is. 1 second here. Let me get everything signed in for this order. Okay. So let me see. What was the other ones here? Oh, go back. Go back. There we go. What was the other one? Rhino, here in name only. So it's just to collect a paycheck without contributing much to the team. They might not be actively impeding your decision making, but they're not helping much either. Yeah, unfortunately, these are the folks that really need to be laid off in companies for performance issues, instead of how the Metas and the Googles and the Fangs are doing layoffs now for performance issues. There's just too many people being laid off for performance issues that it is not realistic in how they are doing these layoffs. But there are legitimately, when I worked in government service, there were some folks that was like, oh, he's been here 25 years. He has, we're not sure what he does, but he does something. There's a lot of people who say, that stability lends itself to, it takes a lot to get rid of somebody in a job. And so, it's rough. Those people having clearly defined prioritization, understand how decisions are made, give them the confidence to actively participate, and so having maybe it's not just a person who is there in name only. Maybe they're a Rhino because they're new to the organization, so they don't know exactly what to do. So helping them as a not a junior member, or maybe you are the Rhino. Maybe you're here and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Ask your managers, ask your people around you to shadow them, or to, hey, what projects would you like to get off your plate that maybe you could get spun up on. And remember, when you're standing up new people, there is a time frame that it takes to ramp up to those things. Everyone is empowered to have a say, and it doesn't turn into, well, our process is the boss tells you what is important, which is how you end up with a team of disillusioned Rhinos. Yeah, if you don't know what to do until your boss tells you to jump, then you're going to run into some issues with that. Let me double check here. Add items. So I'm going to a local DEF CON meetup tonight in about half an hour, as a matter of fact. I'm going to be donating some stuff to the Irvine Underground folks if they show up tonight. I'm not sure they are going to. Oh, cool. Oh, excellent. He will be here tonight. Cool. Just mentioned the DEF CON meetup and that I was donating some stuff to y'all. All right. I need to go to the order summary, change my order. So yeah, I mean, I've been starting to branch out because I realized that if I'm going to be 45 years old and I don't know if my company is going to be laying people off. There has been suggestions that is the rumor, but I don't want to be in the position where I'm laid off and I'm 45 years old and I don't have anything I'm doing. So the boot.dev stuff is great, by the way. I cannot recommend that enough. My company actually paid for the yearly membership, which I bought for it. But I'm going through the back-end career developer path, which is interesting. I've gone through, going back through the Python stuff, and I'm learning how to do that. Going through stack traces, and it's gamified, so it's like kind of like a Duolingo meets a Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, where you can get certain things to protect your streaks if you don't do any work there. If you answer something wrong, you spend armor. It's kind of like an RPG kind of thing. Depending on how much experience you spend per day, you can get certain prizes by doing that. So you get experience based on the exercises that you do. And there's a number of different things you can learn here as a back-end developer. I probably won't learn Linux, but if I'm trying to gain levels, because I'm just a lowly weird worm apprentice right now, I might do the 66 courses it takes to learn Linux in here, and terminal and shells and file systems and perms and all that stuff, just to boost my scores. Been learning Git. I actually learned some stuff about Git I didn't know already, which is awesome. But they have other legitimate projects, like building the game Asteroids and using Pygame, functional programming, static site generators, and they have a Discord, which once you go through a couple of the levels, it's like, hey, join the Discord and whatever. But they have other things like learning memory management in C, I think, C structures, C basics. So there's a number of different stuff, learning CI/CD. There's a capstone project, learning how to find a programming job. These are new. They added these just recently, so this is new content here. But yeah, it's good stuff. I would highly recommend that. It is, I would say, a little pricey, but the way I recommended it to my boss is like, hey, I'd like to get this. It's like Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. So if you're learning, and they have videos and stuff you can watch, and they have a podcast that you can, let me see, where's one of the videos? Let me see if I can go back. I'll go back to some of the free stuff. That way I don't get in trouble with the organization. Come on. So some of it's question and answer, true and false. Let me see. Yeah, here you go. So
functions are the building blocks of real-world applications. They make it so we can reuse the code that we write, and they help us organize our code into smaller pieces so that it's all easier to keep track of. Yeah. Let's take a look at this example, a function that calculates the area of a circle. It takes the radius of a circle as input, in meters, we'll be using the metric system for this example, and when it's done, it will return the area of the circle in meters squared. Here's the code that defines the area of circle function. If all we do is define the function, it won't actually do anything. We have to call the function in order for it to execute. Let's call it with a radius of 5 as the input. Now, when the function is called, execution jumps back to the function definition. A new variable that's only available inside the function, called pi, is created with a value of 3.14. Next, we save the result of pi times r to a new variable called result. The area of a circle is pi r squared after all. Finally, we return the result from the function as its output. Execution jumps back to the function call at this point, and we capture the return value in a new variable called area. And if we want to, we can just print it. The best part is that we can then call it again with a different input, getting the associated output, and we can do it again and again and again as many times as we want.
Yeah, so that's kind of, sometimes they have videos and they'll go through it. And so they have different things down here. So they have an AI where you can ask a question with a smoked salmon. I think that's, I forget what they have. Let me see. That's not a spree. They have things that you can give the bear, which is, baked salmon. So if you have to ask them, it's powered by OpenAI. So if you ask it a question, it's trained based on the activities that are here to answer the question. So, I've used it a couple of times where it'll ask you a question. If you don't have a baked salmon, you lose 50% of the XP from that exercise to complete the lesson. And, if you get stuck, they have a, where is it? Like a solution. So you can just pull the solution down if you want to see what the code is meant to look like. There's a couple times where I've actually been different than what the code was suggested, but the code still works. And right now, in the section that I'm in, section 4, we just went over scope variables, and we were no, not scope. Well, unit tests. Oh man, I still don't quite understand the unit test thing, because I'm not putting unit tests in my main code, but all the unit tests are in here, located in here. So, and then, func main, I think we've talked about that previously, is called here with main.py. So they have a main test, which is all the other stuff ahead of that. And then, once you recall func main, or main is where I put my code, and then I run it, and then it tells me, whether or not my stuff passed or failed. And I wrote this code. It actually comes up with only anything not highlighted is here in this area. So it's a great group. It's a great application. I can sit down and I can pound out a couple of these, or it's like, oh man, this section is kind of hard with the Python stuff. Let me go and do the get, or do something else so that I can maintain my daily streak or whatever. But either way, I'm learning something, which is great. The unit tests are kind of interesting, because I'm trying to figure out, they submit cases, and it's basically, what you would expect from being able to run cases or run test cases against that. So I would suggest, taking a look if you're interested. There is, you can redeem certain things. You can, there's a leaderboard where you can see who's doing well. I'll never get up to Archmage, but they have a whole, community behind it, and it's fairly active. So, and, if your company is, big enough and they want to get it, there's pricing for, having your whole company be involved with these things as well. So, all right, well, I am going to go. I know this was a little shorter than normal, but I'm seriously let me go back to the zebra thing. Zero evidence but arrogant. So one last one. The zebra is interesting here with this. They think they know all but rely on instincts rather than actual evidence. I have been a zebra more than a few times because in organizations that say they're data driven, there's very little data sometimes. And so, I wouldn't call myself arrogant, but it's like my pessimism as being 20 years in the information security community. I'm always thinking worst case scenario. So it is relying on instinct. It's my gut reaction of what's going to happen, because I want to prepare myself for the absolute worst thing, or preparing people for what actually is going to occur. And I want to say that has gotten me bit a couple times, and I strive to make that better, but sometimes it's like I don't have the data to back up my arguments. I just know that thing is going to happen. Logically, that feels like that's what's going to happen, but I don't have any data to support that, which sucks ass. But so sometimes you just have to go, all right, well, just let the cards happen, let it happen, fall where they may. And I wouldn't say I'm right all the time, but It's like 50-50, right? So, yeah. Hey, John 2.0. I gave you a shout out earlier, and I will hydrate. Appreciate you. I'm actually about to just drop off here because I have to go to a local DEF CON meetup. So I'm going out into the meet space, and I'm getting myself prepped and ready to go. So yeah, it's not bad. I mean, we'll be talking about B-Side San Diego, which if you are interested, if anybody's interested in coming to hang out, by the way. So these animals, they don't have to be, some of these, you might recognize some of these people in security as well. But B-Side San Diego is coming up next month. I will be gooning at this event, B-Side San Diego. It is the finest B-Sides, America's finest B-Sides. March 29th at San Diego State Student Union. Great venue, by the way. Huge speaking track area. And the call for papers is closed. The call for volunteers is also closed, I think, according to the Slack channel. If you want to sponsor, you can still sponsor. But I'll be gooning for that. Only B-Sides by me closed up shop, Detroit. Oh, that's a shame, John. Well, I'm sure, San Diego's a bit of a flight for you. That sucks. There's, I was going to say, is there GERCon or whatever, but I think GERCon's gone as well, right? 614Con, GERCon. GERCon put up shop, right? Nope. GERCon's still going on. That's in Grand Rapids. I don't know how close that is to your area of Detroit, but it is. Looks like it's happening in October, so that's not bad. They got cool. Okay. Yeah. Wow. They got a hell of a lot of sponsors. Look at that shit. Jesus. 614Con I think was Indianapolis, but yeah. And then where was that place that I was looking at a job they had there, and they actually run a conference in Louisville, Security Con, not DerbyCon, but they had a conference in Louisville, Kentucky. Red Hack Red Con. There you go. That was July 12th. I know that's not close to Detroit either, but that was one I noticed as well. Yeah, MySec folks. Yes, they're good folks as well. But yeah, they're another security conference. It's in Louisville, and it's actually around the time that DerbyCon used to be, which was middle of July or something. So Hope is going on in New York. So there's still conferences out there. In this day and age and job market, I think we need to do what we can to maybe stretch ourselves a little bit and get out and meet people. Some of us need that networking, especially when we get of a certain age where we're going to need to interact with people. So try to do what you can to stretch yourself, extend yourself, and I just hit 46 next month. So it is one of those things. So I'm going to be heading to DEF CON, local meetup here. I'll be at B-Side San Diego next month, like I said, and I'm expecting to be at DEF CON. So getting to see some of our goons and hanging out. So hope everyone has a good day, good rest of their week. I will hopefully be on Sunday. I think Mr. Betcher, Miss Berlin, and myself will get on. And yeah, John, thank you. Appreciate the shout out. Appreciate you subscribing to our stream here. So I'm gonna send out the invite to Mr. Betcher and Miss Berlin for Sunday, and maybe we'll get on and talk about some stuff. So hope everyone has a good day. Take care of yourselves, and be safe, please. And have a good day. Bye, y'all.